Welcome everyone, I'm Archit Seshadri. Thanks so much for watching Gravitas, a special bulletin this evening. Let's first start with the headlines. India hits back at Pakistan with surgical strikes across the line of control, or the LOC. 40 terrorists neutralized in the operation. WION gets exclusive details of the Operation Dark Night. Security forces went deep in and came back before sunrise. Pakistan denies India's claim. Nawaz Sharif says our peaceful intent was taken for weakness. India evacuates villagers near the Pakistani border of the line of control, and hospitals also get ready to prepare. The Indian government calls for an all-party meet in New Delhi. They also briefed the opposition party about the situation going on at the LOC. Welcome everyone to this special broadcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Over the next hour, we're going to have an in-depth conversation about India's response to Pakistan. In a 4-hour-long surgical operation, India struck terrorist hideouts across the line of control Wednesday night with Pakistan. 40 terrorists were killed, including 2 Pakistani soldiers. 9 others were hurt. Now, this is India's first major strike and also part of India's answer to the recent Uri terror attacks, now entering its 11th day. That attack killed 19 Indian soldiers. Over the next hour, we're going to take a look at some of the specifics. We're going to see the operations, the political experts, the reactions and what's going on between India and Pakistan, the military angle, diplomacy, economic issues. What will India and Pakistan do next? Will they go to war? And we'll also be going to look at the response that India may make over the coming days with regards to its neighbor. Their whole goal was to isolate that. In our second half hour, we'll also get international reaction as world leaders keep a close watch on India and Pakistan. But first, let's introduce our guests for the evening. We have a whole lineup of guests over the next hour. We have Marvi Surman, a senior journalist from Pakistan. We have Mr. T.R. Karkar, a former secretary from Jammu and Kashmir, as well as in our studio, we have Rahul Jalali, a senior journalist from Jammu and Kashmir, to have an in-depth discussion. A lot of our WION correspondents are also going to be joining in on this conversation. But first, we're going to go to our editor-in-chief, Mr. Rohit Gandhi, who is live for us from Mumbai. Rohit, let's get your perspective on this. You witnessed a lot of history. How crucial was this move by India in this operation called Dark Night?
Let me start by telling you what this operation was. We have information from the Indian military, from our sources. It was a land-based operation primarily. It was the Para regiment, which was dropped close to the border inside Indian territory by helicopters. From there, they carried out this strike. They went in close to about 3 kilometers inside Pakistani territory to carry out this strike. They had one injury. A soldier was injured in his foot, but he was carried back to safety through the operation. They say the operation lasted about 4 hours. There are different teams that went out different directions to carry out the operation. And as they returned, they have captured footage. They have captured information from this operation. They are not really giving a hard number, even though there is a number floating around of about 40, but the Indian military is not giving a hard number. They're still evaluating what the damage was. Now, as we speak ahead, they have cleared, on the Indian side, they've asked for clearance of 10 kilometers from the line of control, which means there is heightened security. They're on heightened alert that there may still be reaction, even though Pakistan has said that they will not be responding. But if this happens again, Pakistan will respond. So certainly a very heightened state of alert on the Indian and the Pakistani side. There are over 500,000 troops on the Indian side of Jammu and Kashmir which operate, and close to 250,000 troops on the Pakistani side. So India and Pakistan on high alert, and it's a wait and watch.
All right, Rohit Gandhi, our editor-in-chief, giving us his perspective. Rohit, thank you so much for that update. We'll certainly check in with you later on. But let's get you more coverage about this, where exactly all of this unfolded right now, 24 hours or so about when this Operation Dark Night, took place. Sources tell WION that at least 5 terror launch pads were destroyed by the special forces of the Indian Army in this surgical strike. So, first of all, what exactly is a surgical strike? Well, it is a brief military attack intended to inflict damage on a specific target with little or no collateral damage to any of the surrounding areas, similar to what happened with the strike conducted by the United States to kill Osama bin Laden a few years back. Now, the Indian Special Forces Wednesday night were paradropped to 8 hideouts across the line of control on Pakistan. On that side, the LOC. Sources tell WION that these hideouts were at 5 specific locations. Again, the range anywhere between 500 meters to 2 kilometers from that line of control. All right, now we're going to go into get some discussion about what exactly is going on. Let's first start with our guest, Mr. Jalali. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio. Quite a lot of development happening between India and Pakistan. India's goal in all of this was to isolate Pakistan. Sark, now it seems like their strategy is working.
Well, I think so, because if you look at it, we first isolated Pakistan and built up international pressure on Pakistan on the issue of terror. At the same time, we were preparing for this surgical strike, and we went ahead and did it. It's a great achievement because, remember, it's the second time any country in the world has done this kind of strike. The first was the United States, as you mentioned it, and now it's India. It's proving a point to Pakistan that the old policy of restraint is gone. If you strike us, we'll strike back.
Right.
And it's established that we'll strike back with success. That is the big thing. I mean, I'm not going into the numbers who were killed. It could be 40, it could be less, it could be more. But the fact is that 5 launching pads. Launch pads is a military jargon which specify that these are forward posts which are protected and in secure areas from where an army unit launches an attack. That's what launch pads are. But in this case, it was used for terrorists. This is what Pakistan does. These are very near the border. It ranges from a region called Bhimber Gali going on. That's the Pakistan side, which is next to Punj, extending up till Kupwara. This is the Indian side.
Right.
So it's just across the LOC that where the strike took place. And it's not easy given I've been to that place, I've traveled around in that place.
It's a very difficult situation to get these
launch pads. It is highly guarded. That is what I'm referring to. It's not only the question of terrain, but the amount of Pakistani army which is positioned on that side. So to hoodwink them and get in and strike, it's a major achievement.
And let's just bring our viewers up to speed again. 19 soldiers were killed when, 2 weeks ago nearly, when the attack happened in Uri. This is coming at about the 11th day. This type of thing can't happen overnight. There's obviously some level of planning, some strategic development with India's army. What does this attack, the response to Pakistan, show about India's military power?
Well, it does. I mean, we've all been talking of, that Pakistan is no match in a conventional warfare, which has been proven time and again with India. But now we've also proved that, look, you might use terror as a weapon of war against us, but we're going to go in surgical strikes and eliminate terror camps and bases in Pakistan. So it's a big message which has gone to the Pakistani establishment. Till now, it has never happened. We never did it after 26/11 or whatever the case might be. But now, it also shows the political resolve behind this move. And I'd compare it with 1971 after Indira Gandhi. I think this is the first time when India has moved across the LOC or the border, whatever the case might be, and struck at Pakistan.
Right.
Secondly, which I think is very important, we have also told Pakistan that if you strike us, we will have no hesitation in crossing the LOC or the border to strike back as whatever the case might be.
That is a message that India is sending out globally and to Pakistan.
Yes, it's a diplomatic message which has also gone there.
All right, so let's continue this conversation to bring you the other perspective. We're now going to go live to our guest from Pakistan, a senior journalist, Marvi Surmet. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We certainly appreciate your input to give us the ma'am, I'm sorry, to get us that perspective. Give us an opinion about the Pakistani side about this and how Pakistan is sort of reacting to this.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, in Pakistan, I'm speaking from Islamabad, and here people largely people have skepticism about whether the strikes actually happened or not, whether it was a minor or usual cross-border firing incidents or a surgical strike, because there are so many questions which so far remain unanswered, and I'm sure Indian media would be raising them at home. For example, surgical strike would mean that very close air support would be provided to the troops on ground. And the troops would be on ground. Either they would be on ground or the attacks would have been carried out by the drone strikes. In either case, the air support would be essential for such a strike. So this can only happen if the Air Force on the Pakistan side would be sleeping, which is not possible in certain, in current situation where the security situation is at a hike, and there is unprecedented activity on the borders, eastern side of Pakistan. So it is not possible that the Air Force would be, sleeping totally and would not be aware of what was happening. Then the footage that we are seeing here, people are raising questions on the footage that Indian channels are showing in your channel. I was watching your channel as well in the afternoon, and there was this footage about it was a helicopter chopper from which the paratroopers were jumping on the Pakistani side. One, it is not clear if it is Pakistani side. I mean, it has to be proven whether it was from the video is from the internal military exercise or was actually on Pakistan side. And when the troops were, paratroopers were jumping on Pakistani side, how did they go back? Was there the chopper that landed there, or that stayed there in Pakistani air, and then it took back the Indian troops to the Indian side, or there were some casualties on the Indian side. Some of the Indian troops might have fallen, but that's not what Indian side is saying. So there's a great deal of confusion among the people and among the analysts here, who are raising all kinds of questions which might be answered in the following days. But so far, this fog persists.
Let me have you a clarification there, Ms. Surma. Thank you so much again for that perspective. But this morning, we heard Pakistan basically making it look like they're brushing this off, not really too concerned about this move, this surgical strike, saying only 2 soldiers were hurt. And then later on, as the day progressed, that number went up to about 9. India saying 40 terrorists, so quite a huge discrepancy there. What do you attribute that discrepancy? Because earlier our panelists, our experts have also said this was Pakistan's response even during the capture of Osama bin Laden. So it seems like in the beginning they're brushing it off, but later on the numbers or the statistics prove otherwise. Why this discrepancy?
When Osama bin Laden strike happened, there was so much of evidence on ground, and then America released, minute by minute detail, and there were this audio feed coming in, and some video was also released. The target was also shown in the footage. While in the current footage that we have seen on Indian channels, the target is not seen. It's an image of paratroopers jumping, then it's an image of troops moving towards the target, and then image of an explosion. So it's very hazy. It's not clear. And when I think the ISPR announced that made a statement this morning about about 2 soldiers who were martyred and on Pakistani side, they claimed it was a cross-border, it was a violation of LOC ceasefire, which is very much possible because in the past LOC ceasefire has resulted in casualties on both sides. Indian soldiers have been killed and Pakistani soldiers have been killed. So this was more plausible rather than a surgical strike, which is it is very precise, and Indian side must be knowing the exact coordinates of the targets, where the targets were. so far we don't know the exact coordinates of the targets. There's no footage of the target burning or like we had the images from America when Osama bin Laden operation was conducted. So that is why there's a great deal of skepticism in Islamabad over this.
All right, so we do know some development that's been coming into the newsroom right now. We want to update our viewers. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for a cabinet meet on Friday morning to discuss this, and certainly everybody's going to be wondering, especially on the Indian side, what type of diplomatic offensive will India take? Possibly waiting to see if Pakistan may retaliate. Of course, this was India's response to what happened in Uri about 2 weeks back. Let's now go to our correspondent in New Delhi, Ramesh Ramachandran. Ramesh, I know it's been quite a hectic day, lots of developments. Bring us up to speed on what all has happened, at least from the political front in India.
Indeed, when we walked in early this morning, we were given to understand that the Indian government has convened a meeting where it will discuss or revisit the most favored nation status that was accorded to Pakistan. But before the meeting could begin, we were told that there's going to be a special media briefing in New Delhi, which would be addressed by officials from the Ministries of External Affairs and Defense. And the rest, as they say, is in the public domain. Now, before I want to make a quick couple of points. One, let's not lose sight of the fact that this was a retaliatory strike. India did not initiate this operation. It was a preemptive strike to foil infiltration attempts, number one. Number two, the surgical strike, which the Indian government so describes, should be seen as a means to an end. And what is the end? The end is to get Pakistan to reorient its policies towards India, to desist from using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. And number three, we saw last year how India responded or carried a similar surgical strike by the special forces across the border with Myanmar after 18 Indian soldiers perished in that attack. Given the casualties suffered by India in the aftermath of the Uri attack, it was virtually impossible for the government to not act similarly. So the surgical strike should be seen in that context. As Prime Minister Modi said before, the perpetrators of the terrorist attack shall not go unpunished. So that is a context and a perspective in which this today's development should be seen. Archit?
All right, Ramesh, we'll get back to you in a moment, but now to another developing situation coming into the WION newsroom. We're going to go to our chief domestic correspondent via phone, Karthikeya Sharma, to bring us up to speed about what Narendra Modi is now saying, holding a cabinet meet. Karthikeya, what does this latest development indicate? We know there was an all-party meeting earlier. Let's get your perspective on that.
Archit, the breaking news is that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for a Cabinet Committee of Security meeting at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. So there will be another long session of Cabinet Committee on Security, which comprises of the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, the Finance Minister, Foreign Affairs Minister, and the Home Minister. Includes Director RAW, IB, the DGMO, the Army Chief. That meeting will take place at his residence tomorrow, and probably they will review the security situation, because as of today we know that people near the international border and line of control have been evacuated. So in that context, this meeting becomes very, very significant and important, that he is going for another CCS tomorrow morning, Archit.
Karthikeya, also while we have you on the line, I know earlier we discussed about the voice, the unified voice that India is now providing. We also understand that Sushma Swaraj, the Minister of External Affairs, met with Sonia Gandhi. Talk to us a little bit about that unification process when it comes to India and how it's approaching this situation with its surgical strike. What does that mean?
I think it holds a lot of significance that the Prime Minister, after the CCS, after the briefing of the press, they took time to brief the political functionaries, which means that they want to have a political consensus on national policies related to defense and foreign affairs. And that did not end there. The important part is that Sushma Swaraj, before the all-party meeting, went in person and briefed Congress President Sonia Gandhi. So it was an outreach on part of the government that there should be no different opinions when it comes to the defense of this country, when it comes to the foreign policy approach of this country. I think that was the most important takeaway post cross-border operation.
All right, Karthikeya Sharma, our chief domestic correspondent, giving us that perspective. Thank you so much for that update. Now let's go back to our guest here in the studio, Mr. Rahul Jalali. Again, lots of developments happening with the situation between India and Pakistan. Could this mean India and Pakistan, could they go to war?
I doubt it. I think if you look at it, Pakistan will not go to war with India. They know what their fate is going to be.
And why is that?
They know what their fate is going to be. They can't fight a conventional war with India.
But they've been talking about the nuclear
Yes,
buildup.
I'm coming to that. They're talking of nuclear threat. In this day and age, this is just talk. I doubt India, when we went for the surgical strike, we have factored in this question of nuclear threat, where their defense minister has been time and again been talking about it. And look, it's all empty threats. I don't think it's going to work, one. And maybe if India can do this surgical strike, we also have the capacity to take off their nuclear weaponry. So it's a message which goes loud and clear. Secondly, look at Pakistan's dilemma. They're in a problem today, the leadership of Pakistan, if they admit that there was a surgical strike, look what happens to the army of Pakistan. What do people of Pakistan feel about their great wanted army? It just loses face. Next thing is, people are going to question this army in Pakistan and ask them, why the hell are you ruling over us? That's a big question. That's why they're evading this entire issue. You looked at the journalist who'd come from Pakistan. The lady is honest. She doesn't know. But the fact is, when we call 22 diplomatic missions to brief them on what has happened, when we talk to the NSA of the United States to brief them on this surgical strike, it means we have done something. We're not just talking in thin air, and we've done something which is major. Remember, this is the only second country in the world which has done this kind of anti-terrorist operation after the US, which goes to show that our special forces, the paras, are very well trained. And I'm also aware of it that the coordinates of these launch pads have been known for a long, long time. It's not they've discovered it overnight. And I also know there have been time before when the Indian Army wanted to go in for these surgical strikes. But at that time, the political will was lacking. This time they got to go ahead, and they did it.
Let's bring in another guest now to join us into this conversation. We're going to bring in Mr. T.R. Kakkar, who is also in Kashmir, a former special secretary to Jammu and Kashmir, to get your perspective with regards to this. India, Pakistan, this response is back and forth, this stressful, strained relation at this point. Ultimately, it's the people of Jammu and Kashmir who seem to be bearing the brunt of it, with the curfew, with all that's going on in that region. What do we make of that? Is there any end in sight, or is this going to still continue?
Look, I'm not going to talk of 26/11 or the Pathankot, but on the 11th of September, something happened in Poonch area, and then, of course, the Uri attack, where our soldiers who were on the changeover, that is, a unit was being inducted, the other unit was being taken out, and they were unprepared. They were attacked, a large number of them, 18, 19 of them were killed. Now, you see what Pakistan did before launching these attacks. They created that problem in Kashmir, and for all those 72 days, 75 days, we had turmoil in Kashmir, and now they did this. This was their plan. This was their plan, and they perhaps felt that, and all the other attacks that they used to do, terrorists used to attack, or the 26/11 or the Pathankot, the government of India will not respond go across the line. But this time they forgot to appreciate that there is another government, and the government resolve is quite different. Now, this surgical strike, you see, that the camps existed in the POK, 17 to 23 camps existed in the POK of these terrorist groups, which were aided and abetted all the time by the regular troops, is well known. Now, of late, the terrorist crossing had become too frequent, and therefore something had to be done. In this case also, if you see, this surgical strike which has been carried out, it has been carried out on the launching pads. What does it really mean? That you have training centers behind, then you have launching pad. This is to neutralize the terrorists. It is not an attack against the armed forces of Pakistan. We are saying that, look, make this area free of terrorists. This has been done with great precision, with great accuracy, and our boys have come back. Number of casualties, well, the army says 40 or 38. That will be known in due course. And the encouraging thing is that this is done in such a precision that we have just lost. Probably one of our soldiers is injured, and he has also been brought back. This will prove to the Pakistanis that the Indian army is very well trained, and there is a resolve now. Before that, we isolated them diplomatically. We also created some confusion for them so that they keep thinking on some other things before we launch this surgical strike. All that was done in a true operational fashion.
A very strategic operation that was done very well planned. All the agencies,
RAW, IB, everything coordinated,
right.
Very well coordinated operation, and therefore Pakistan must learn. And as far as Pakistan denial is concerned, I was listening to this lady correspondent. Because the Pakistan army has denied such a surgical strike, but they will have to save their face in Pakistan if they admit. All the Pakistanis, including these people who, the correspondents who should be going into a thing, also deny that such a thing has taken place.
Right.
But in due course, things will be very clear. And what we know that our people carried out the strike and in a great precision.
All right, we know it's a waiting game. It's a very delicate situation, but that is going to wrap it up for this bulletin. Right now, we're going to thank some of our guests. Marvi, thank you so much for your input and your perspective from Pakistan. We appreciate that. Also, thank you to Ramesh Ramachandran for his input from New Delhi. Lots of coverage to bring to you over the next half an hour. Stay with us right here on WION. We'll take a quick break.